say two more panels on CleanTech per se, and you see yourself up there like Andrew and Dale, and Nathan's able to make it, but Adam and Darren, Andreas, and now Carol, do you want to be on the energy or do you want to be on this one? Either way. Share screen. All right. Here. Keep using the analogy of please grab a chair for Andreas. Yeah. The analogy that we're just a big jazz orchestra.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Or band.
You're in the panel?
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm gonna have the latest version of this.
Let's move back a little
But,
bit. So everybody can.
so I feel that I'm moderate.
Here we go.
So broadly speaking, I wanted to kick it off with brief, and I really do mean brief, introduction to where we're coming from as we talk about CleanTech. And maybe I'll start with you, Dale, and then I'll let go down, and then we'll pick up with you, Adam, and Fiona will take over from there.
Greetings. Thank you all for staying for our panel. I am a 25-year allocator in energy and climate tech across the public pension funds, foundations, and family offices.
Andrew Karsh, also 25 years, which is way too long.
He looks younger.
No, I think you do.
Okay, thank you.
So, 25 years managing investments for some of the largest institutions in the world, pension funds, foundations, sovereign wealth funds. Spent the last 10 years at CalPERS running all their direct alternative investments. Left a year and a half ago to solve all the challenges that we've been talking about today, which is how do you prove to institutional investors and family offices that you can generate top-tier returns while still having impact across climate technology, health innovation, inclusive capitalism. And our team is also 60% diverse owned, so my partners are a fantastic woman investor, a fantastic black investor, and
We're going to hear it today, right?
Kim will be here tomorrow. So my partner, Kim Cole, will be here tomorrow. She flew in from the West Coast just for this market. And she's moving out 2 houses, so yeah, she said you owe her a drink.
Solid one.
More than that.
Hey everyone, Darren Wolfberg, co-founder, CEO of Triangle. 25 years of institutional finance experience at large banks, managing businesses for them. Triangle is delivering a kit of solutions linking climate and finance together so that finance can help solve the problem. TCFD compliance, sustainability-linked underwriting, and carbon credit minting, rolling out our first customers to banks, to asset managers, and here we go.
Hi everyone, my name is Carol Pepper. I'm the CEO and founder of Pepper International, and for 22 years I have set up family offices all over the world and improved them, and acted as an external chief investment officer with a focus on social impact. In the last 2 years, I've gotten extremely passionate about fixing the carbon credit market and protecting the interests of family landowners and those who want to participate in this market from the family office side in a new venture I founded called Family Office Carbon.
Yeah, my name is Andreas. I'm representing the Lambda Group here. We are a high-tech group slash family office with a mixture. We're creating our own investment opportunities, so to speak. At the center is a research center with 150 PhDs. And we are focusing on material science, and we're doing that across industries, so the panel is really something that fits here our business model. And what we're doing is really ranging from cosmetics, where we take formaldehyde of one of the applications, it's hair straightening, which currently is called that, but ranges also lab-grown diamonds, which are currently mined diamonds, are acute damage to the huge problem for the environment, so nobody knows that, but it's really digging big holes in the earth, the social impact, etc. So we're doing that with clean energy, so creating them in the lab. And a couple of other things, digital printing and 3D printing, so it's really across the board.
Hi, I'm Adam Washington. I want to thank, Mark at 361 and Ryan over at BDO for hosting us. I'm the executive director of Publica, which is a nonprofit organization which is focused on convening leaders from across the financial services ecosystem who are interested in not only discussing but implementing environmental, social, and governance initiatives both inside their organizations as well as across the broader community.
Thank you. Welcome all. I'd love to take a deep breath again, everybody. You know me and breath. Really, it's essential. So under my nonprofit side of it, and also for my for-profit side, it has been climate tech, climate technology, and energy transition. So it may come from the roots of the forest that I teach or listen or learn, but it is actually through adapting technology, but innovating change makers. So I'm going to come back to each one of you, and I'm going to ask, what do you do as an innovator? And try to keep it down to 1 minute, so that it's not a pitch. Remember, this is not a pitch session. This is about how can we innovate others to join you in what you need. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona. I'm going to touch upon carbon credits, because carbon credits is an institutional solution as well as an individual solution that we can all get involved in. You've all heard of nature-based carbon credits and engineered carbon credits. And I'm not going to get into a debate about either one because we need both if we are going to scale and actually achieve the goal of net zero in a reasonable amount of time. The engineered solution is what I've been focused on, and I'm working with a team who has developed a new carbon credit derived from the retirement of oil and gas wells. This upstream solution addresses a problem across the U.S. It is a global solution. We're U.S.-based, or the team is U.S.-based, and that's why we focus there. 90% of the underperforming wells in the U.S., there are over 1 million, are responsible for the greatest amount of methane emissions. So the permanent retirement of these wells is significant, and the technology behind the solution is blockchain-based. It will host these protocols and every other protocol, including nature-based protocols.
So one of the challenges that we realize in this space is there's fantastic individuals like in this room and family offices that are focused on impact investing and creating change using their wealth. And then I saw one of the biggest issues was the $60 to $100 trillion of institutional capital who says they want to do things that are sustainable, and they say they want to do things that are inclusive, but they haven't done it. And one of the challenges that I found sitting inside the largest pension fund in the U.S. is that they just really didn't have the capacity to do it because they couldn't find managers who had the track record at institutional scale. And so that was really the thesis behind our firm. So we're leveraging a track record of 7 exits and 10 unicorns across the space through a large institutional fund. But the innovation is really, A, getting the capital flowing from these large institutions who say they want to do these things and show them that it's not concessionary returns, that it's actually a top-tier investment thesis. We're taking advantage of tailwinds. And then the companies we're investing into, as opposed to, for example, we have 2 people from Breakthrough Energy Ventures on our board, and they're investing in the 20-year moonshot. And we got a call from the Wall Street Journal last week asking us our views about moonshots, and we said, look, that's a fantastic and very important issue. But what we're doing is we're investing in the companies that are actually making a change today. Right? We can all hope in 20 years that there's carbon negative asphalt and that there's things that are changing the world to improve the ocean. But the companies that we're investing into, for example, one is actually the first company that has a real-time sensor to go into tanker ships to monitor their carbon emissions. So at the same time, they're able to track real-time carbon emissions to develop a sustainable supply chain data set for Amazon and Apple and GM and Ford and all these people that are shipping goods around the world. They're also allowing these shipping companies to reduce their fuel costs by 30 to 50%. Not only is it economically incentivized for the shipping companies, which are private, but it also provides a data set that allows their customers to then track and report through the TCFD reporting and net zero commitments what they're actually doing. So I think, in terms of the innovation for us, it's really focused on companies that already have revenue business models and are allowing the current reduction of carbon emissions on a real-time basis as a bridge to the 20-year moonshot that so many of us are on investing.
That's a great segue. So, the same way that 60 to $100 trillion are looking for ways to invest, we believe the climate problem is obviously a carbon problem, but it's a big data problem. And how do you collect all of the data across all the assets in a corporate ecosystem, a government ecosystem, so that you can arrive at your carbon ledger and everyone is on the same GAAP-like accounting ecosystem of math, as opposed to qualitative scoring or color wheels. We break down the numbers, and what we do is we take those sensors and we link them to financial assets. So therefore, those investors that are out there that want to invest in sustainability get the raw data feeds associated with each asset, and whether that's one asset in an asset ecosystem or it's hundreds of assets in an asset ecosystem, we're able to aggregate the data across all of these assets using blockchain and digital IDs. So therefore, all of the data is traceable, recognizable, and verifiable. And we're doing this, as I said, with our first two banks, our first two asset managers. We are converting $500 million of Bermuda's $3.5 billion of sovereign debt to sustainability-linked sovereign debt. And then looking at other corporations as well to help them save money on their borrowing costs, because today you can save 54 basis points on your borrowing costs if you do these things. And a lot of people don't know that. So it's taking compliance and the data associated with compliance and linking that to capital markets so that the velocity of capital can get to work on this market.
Yes, and in our case, the innovation that we're looking at is how do we make the registration and issuance of carbon credits trusted globally? Because right now, we have all these wonderful technologies, all these incredible science people coming up with amazing solutions, but nobody trusts the carbon credits because the measurement methods, particularly in the largest existing registry called Vera, have been blown out of the water. There have been a lot of scandals in the last 2 months and huge exposés in all of the media, which is disheartening. But that doesn't mean that there isn't a great solution. So, for example, there are phenomenal scientists coming out of military who are now licensing a lot of technology that's being made available to the private sector. We're working with some of them to do better measurement, ongoing monitoring of different kinds of projects across project types, both nature-based and engineered, so that you can trust those carbon credits as a buyer. So if you're a corporate buyer, you can know that you're buying something that's worth buying. But anybody who's interested in learning about the scandals or understanding what's going on in the carbon markets, happy to give detail at a later point.
Yeah, I would like to connect with what you Andrew said earlier, because I'm on the other side of the table. So indeed, when raising money for our initiatives, I found it extremely hard that people, yes, they like to invest in something sustainable, but when, and we are in deep tech, and unfortunately those things are, even if they're not moonshots, that in material science, I mean, it's something real. You're dealing with physical objects, and things go wrong. You only need the next problem when you have to solve the first problem. So you need more time and more breadth. But on the other hand, the reward from a financial investor's perspective or from an investment perspective is also bigger because you know what you have. If you're betting on the next digital app, you don't know what the reception will be if someone else is doing the same thing. When we create a new solution for a given problem, we can weigh it, we can measure it, we can see is it more efficient than compared to the existing solution, and then is there a market, and then we can go for it. And you can IP protected, you get patents, it's a legal monopoly, so you can. The case is much more solid if you do it in the right way, and we believe the right way is to do that. Also, diversity plays a big role, but diversity in multiple dimensions. We have a lot of women in our R&D teams, great chemists, for instance. I think just one of top of my mind. But also diversity in age, for instance. We have a lot of people who have retired. We have former professors, which we have gotten back here into our labs and said, look, do what you would like to do and create something here for us. So also maybe as a side note, which is also looking at colleagues here from Israel, which makes Israel such an innovative and great place, because it's a just do it mentality. You don't have so much discussions on a meta level. You just, is there a problem? You just go for it at that point. And to come back to sustainability and climate, I mean, we have a very pragmatic approach that doing something in material science is making something more efficient by nature, and therefore sustainability is built into the system from the outset. And just coming back again to the example of lab-grown diamonds, for instance, that, by the way, it's also a good example for how we approach technology and innovation. That came out of an energy project where we needed a diamond coating for a battery, and then we didn't find the right technology for creating lab-grown diamonds, and then we developed the technology by ourselves, and then we said, oh, is there a market for it? Yes, it is. And then the sustainability aspect comes into play with sort of, we are very pragmatic people. Okay, the diamond is just carbon atoms arranged in a certain way. They look nice, but now we can produce them again quality, and let's do it and scale it up, and that's what we're doing. And coming back to your question, Fiona, if someone wants to help us on strategic financial level, well,
I know, because we have
One day, Guru Nam.
one microphone.
Thank you, appreciate it. So one of the things that we're trying to do is we're working with leaders from across the financial services community to focus on what issues it is that you care about. So one of the issues that we've been focusing on, and we had a panel on recently, was cutting edge ESG. And that was really fascinating, looking at things that are maybe not today, but tomorrow. So whether you're looking at digital impact assets, or open source climate data, or the ESG impacts of artificial intelligence, and especially with what's going on with ChatGPT, are absolutely fascinating. But the other thing we want to do is not only focus on discussion, but focus on ways to help you achieve action. So another thing which I think has been very exciting as of late is all of the work that government is doing to step in to develop public-private partnerships. So we had a recent fireside chat with one of the heads of the Department of Energy's Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations, which has $25 billion thanks to the bipartisan infrastructure law to co-invest with you to help you achieve new and innovative projects. And that really can help de-risk the states, especially from an investor perspective.
It's a great honor to actually introduce a close friend of mine, Hank Rogers. Hank's behind there on the screen. Arriving in and out of his world. So let me just take a moment. Hank and I had met through many, many years over exploration in mind matter and energy systems. Hank's also, I won't call him famous from it, but he is famed to be one of the collaborators with Tetris. So if anybody plays the game on Tetris, I haven't. He has yet to make me do it, so that's friendship for you. But I'm going to say that the most inspirational part that I have of Hank is his Blue Planet and his innovation where he has, in Hawaii, brought education to children that are innovating into what's the next generation. His next phase on that was also in energy and climate technology, and then I'll let him tell you even where he's going on his moonshot. So it's all yours, Hank. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm guessing I have like 5 minutes. I'm not really prepared for this one. Yeah, so my background is computer games. 2005, I found my missions in life. First mission is to end the use of carbon-based fuel. At the time, I lived in Hawaii, so I felt like I had to do it in Hawaii before I asked other people to do it in other places. Formed a foundation, Blue Planet Foundation. Our claim to fame is that we have made Hawaii to have the first mandate of 100% renewable energy by 2045. Since then, 22 other states have adopted the same or similar goal of 100% renewable energy. So that movement is moving across the U.S. We followed it up in Hawaii by changing the business model of the utility so they make more money by switching to renewables. And as a result, We have today reached 40% renewable energy, which was originally our 2030 target. So we are actually killing it in Hawaii. By putting the right incentives in the right place, things move very fast. One of the laws that we passed was a law to have rebates for solar, rooftop solar, because Hawaii is the southernmost state in the country. Why waste all that solar energy landing on all those roofs? And well, we thought there was going to be 30 megawatts of rooftop solar in a couple of years, and we end up with 300 megawatts of rooftop solar, and the electric company goes, whoa, we can't handle that much intermittent energy on the grid, especially solar, because it goes on and off very quickly because the clouds form and so on. So they stopped doing grid connect for solar. And then I started thinking, well, how do we get past that? And the answer to that is storage. We need storage. So I took my ranch off grid on the Big Island and learned all about energy storage, batteries to be specific. And so I've been off grid now for, 8-9 years, something like that, on the Big Island. Basically, the solution is solar and batteries. And the batteries that I used were, at first we used, it was vanadium redox flow batteries, and they were a disaster. The company was bought by the Chinese. We never heard from them again. They stopped working. And I said, the next battery is going to be a benign chemistry, and was something I don't mind having at my ranch at the end of life. So we searched for and came up with lithium ferrous phosphate. That turned into a company called Blue Planet Energy. I started helping other people, and now we have, over 200 dealers across the country selling our batteries. Lithium ferrous phosphate, as opposed to nickel, cobalt, manganese, is non-flammable, doesn't get hot. It doesn't use any rare earth elements. And my understanding is the industry is starting to switch over to LFP now, which is a good thing, because we don't want to create another disaster solving the last disaster. So we have I would say we're the highest quality battery in the business. Our cells are made in Japan, in Fukushima. Used to be Sony, now it's Murata. It's just the best product that we could find. The solution long-term for energy, believe it or not, is geothermal. Geothermal in the Big Island could solve all of Hawaii, but for some reason, and it's mostly politics or native objection, that we haven't done this already. But if you look at the Ring of Fire, there's all this geothermal all around the Pacific and in lots of places in the world. What do you do with geothermal? The answer is you make hydrogen. And then instead of shipping fossil fuel around the world, we can ship hydrogen around the world. So all these places that have geothermal, and this is decentralized, meaning it's all over the place. It's not in one place. It's not like in Saudi Arabia or something like that. It's all over the place. And, hydrogen, what we do at the ranch, by the way, is because we are off grid, we have to overbuild so it works on a sunny day, on a cloudy day. On a sunny day, we have all kinds of extra energy, and we use that extra energy to make hydrogen. So hydrogen is our backup fuel. Hydrogen should be the backup fuel for any place where you have times when there's too much solar and too much wind. And this is already happening. It's happening in California. It's happening in Europe. So hydrogen is not just a backup fuel, but hydrogen is also a fuel for moving trucks and buses. So the combination of short-term storage batteries, lithium ferrous phosphate, and coming down the pike, the next, the next technology that we're looking at is graphene. It's even more friendly than lithium ferrous phosphate and even cheaper. So that's where we're headed with short-term storage, and long-term storage, we're betting on hydrogen. So if anybody is interested, the name of the company is Blue Planet Energy, and you can look us up at blueplanetenergy.com. And my name is Hank Rogers. The short email address for me is Hank, HENK@tetris.com. Nice talking to you guys.
Thank you, Hank. Just one quick energy there. Full disclosure, I am an investor in a graphene company in Japan for 12 years. So when we go forth on that discussion, let's move, where does the hydrogen come through? And then, as you just said, I'd like to also look why graphene is important, but the work you do, Hank, that has empowered so many islands and island nations, and if we want to even go deeply into the water of Tonga and others, I'd like to just close on that for you. For energy
Yes.
transition, United
Yes.
Nations,
Right.
call it island. Yeah.
So the United Nations, that the top-down approach in its moment of glory was the Paris Agreement. Is anyone on schedule? And the answer is no. So we need to have another movement, and this I think this is a bottom-up movement. And just like we started in Hawaii, which is like a rounding error in the United States, and now are over 50% of the population, we want to do the same thing with island countries. They have the most to lose. The most to gain by switching, the most to lose by climate change. And so we made agreements with Guam, which is not a country, but Guam, Palau, Tonga, Tuvalu, and that's where it starts. And the dominoes are going to fall all across the Pacific and then across the Caribbean until all the islands are moving. And once people see that movement away from fossil fuel, other countries will start to notice, because we're not just stopping at island country. We want to do every country in the world. We need to end the use of carbon-based fuel by 2045. 2045 is the 100th anniversary of the United Nations. What better date to fix climate change than 2045? So let's just get busy. Let's stop belly aching about why it's so difficult and just get on with it.
So moving to those in the room, I wanted to take time for questions and answers and really digging deep onto solutions. So putting it out there, connectivity and catalyst. So I want to put people together to make sure on this panel and in this room, we actually have collaboration. So I'm gonna walk it over, because I know your beautiful foot is the balance act. Thank you.
So, we were on hydrogen, so it's on the line.
Yeah.
So, if I got my numbers right, about 3% of the hydrogen in the world is produced from electricity, and it's, of course, green. Not much. But most of it, comes from natural gas. So can you just sort of narrow down exactly what you're focused on? Did you get that?
Frank.
Yeah, Frank.
Frank.
Oh, I said we're still on.
Is this a question for me? Yeah, natural gas is a horrible thing. It's 96% methane. So I don't know why we are allowed to call it natural gas. We don't say natural oil or natural coal. Natural gas is just methane. We should call it what it is. And the amount of it that leaks when they bring it out of the ground is just ridiculous. There's so much extra energy when you go for solar and wind. There's no need to go to natural gas. It's just a bad idea. It's just another fossil fuel. It's like switching from heroin to cocaine. Well, why would you do that? Just stop doing it altogether, and start looking for places where you can get free energy. Free energy, geothermal, wind, solar, free energy. This is like nature gives it to us, and we don't use it. I don't know why. Instead, we're using fossil fuel. That makes no sense at all.
Checking in, because we have this whole panel coming through. We do have a next panel on some performance-based hydrogen that's gonna jump in here. So I wanted to also just bring back for decarbonization. One area, like I said, I also am an investor in a energy company, which is taking smart fuel measurements, but we're also taking the front of a ship, and all the ships in the world, and we're decarbonizing the shipping industry, which has the largest fossil fuel abuse and non-tracking and tracing. So when we go back to the work of Cousteau and where and how we can monitor that, hence I could ask him that question, because Sonic C and a lot of NOAA is involved. But one of the core is, how do we actually take some of the dirtiest industries and radically make those changes? And that's something that Hank and some of the others here. So is there any other questions that people would have about what is the urgent, most viable investment that one could make? Because that's what I'm gonna ask people to think about. Any questions? Come on.
I have an answer.
Yeah, you have an answer to that. There you go. That's great.
As I was saying, I think it's data and compliance. Once you get everyone on the same standard of reporting, then even if you have a really bad number, like the shipping industry,
Yeah.
so long as you have a trajectory to net zero, you get a lower borrowing cost from the sustainability-linked bond market.
Right.
That market has grown from $50 billion in 2018 to $3 trillion last year. The cost of borrowing benefit has grown from 5 basis points to 54 basis points. That spread is going to get wider over time, so cost of borrowing is going to drive this innovation. A common set of compliance and GAAP-like accounting, no different than the world, we're in a world before WorldCom blew up. And now we're moving past WorldCom and into a Sarbanes-Oxley world, and there's honest reporting. Well, which way?
I think we all want to comment on that. You go next, Carol.
Sorry, I'm close as I'm grabbing the mic. No, I was just gonna say, that's a very good point, and if you take some of the industries that are sort of the biggest villain, let's just take the mining industry, for example. The mining industry is clueless about carbon capture, carbon credits, what they could be doing, how they could be paid for doing mitigation on all the mining, and how all the new regulations that were just passed in December 27th, actually, 2022, are going to affect all the import into Europe of all commodities. All commodities going to have to be net zero or pay a massive tax. Wake up, commodity companies. So it's very good. I mean, it's taking regulation. In order to comply with regulation, you have to have good measurements. So we're all getting there. We're getting where we need to go. But mining is a good example of where there's great impact that can be made. I've been talking with one of the chief compliance officers of a lot of the privately owned mining groups in Canada and Latin America, and literally at the board level, they're still not even talking about carbon. It's not on their radar yet. So we talk among ourselves, which is good, but we need to go talk to people who don't know anything about this stuff, because they have money to actually get involved. They just don't know what to do.
Great.
Anyway, okay.
Just 2 seconds, just like, I think,
Yeah,
all this thread.
Go ahead. Yeah, we're almost. First, I just want to say aloha to Hank, because he may not know this, but actually, his daughter Maya is an investor and advisor to our firm. She's good friends with Kim Colt, who's one of our partners. He grew up in Hawaii. So, thank you for all of your work, Hank. But in terms of the question, I think there's a few concepts. One, I haven't tell anybody later this story about how I helped create the first carbon negative or carbon neutral aluminum contract with the London Metals Exchange 3 years ago, which was an interesting dynamic. But to the point on data,
While you're at CalPERS.
yeah. Well, when you're at CalPERS, you can call the CEO of the London Metals Exchange and say, look, either you can be proactive or wait until they get you, protesters knocking on your door, which is another story. But so in terms of the point about data, I think in every industry, everybody says if you can measure it, you can manage it. And all the calls that I've gotten over the last 10 years of people trying to sell parts of the rainforest that we won't cut down so the Google founders can fly to Gulfstream and feel better about themselves, like, it's all nonsense, right? So I think there's a key point about data. If all of a sudden we're moving to a metric where we can have auditable data, and I've had 4 conversations with the head of carbon credit, Ernst & Young, over the last 3 weeks, with founders of companies that we've invested into who are creating this data, then be able to measure, manage, and then raise the bar about what carbon reduction actually means. It's really the way to raise the bar and have a gold standard in terms of the industry that can get rid of all the stuff that was very, whimsical in its effectiveness, but really didn't move the needle. So.
I have good news that the reason it's an internal conversation is because of volume, and the volume is coming in carbon credits. And I say that because having the privilege of sitting in allocator rooms with the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, which has an innovation center specifically for innovative assets and technologies, this is a conversation. Some of you know I'm a structured finance banker by background and co-founded Williams Capital, the largest women and minority-owned broker-dealer investment bank in the U.S. today. My exit was 5 years ago. That the volume and trading volume is coming. And in the last structured finance conference, all of the rating agencies registries, God bless them, they started, but because the institutions must, and some are coming regardless of whether they have to, but we know in the US the laws are changing. We're speaking about the rating agencies, large and small. We're speaking about Federal Reserve banks, the more innovative ones, and that I can say that having worked with 7, there's 3 that are specifically focused in innovation. And we're also speaking about some of the large public pension funds, of which, you know, some people know I started at New York City Public Pension Fund and work with others, but I don't, it's up for them to say what they're doing, but I'm just sharing with you that the verification and the data and the processes and the protocols are under evaluation, and yes, it includes the big 4 accounting firms, 3 of the 4 for myself. And I'm really excited because in a couple of years, this is going to be a tradable market, and which is why this is the time to get in, depending on your risk appetite and depending on your time horizon. And being in what is basically a new asset class. That's what we're speaking about here, a new asset class. And that's why the institutions are involved. That's why the Federal Reserve Bank of New York and others are involved.
And I think measurement is extremely important, but there are other ways for people in this room to get involved. So when you take a look at what you can invest in these days, and just take a look at what the federal government is focusing on, at OSED, they're doing $8 billion in co-investments in regional clean energy hubs. They're doing $7 billion in co-investments in carbon management, capture, and storage. $6 billion in industrial demonstration, $2.5 billion in reactors, $1 billion in rural and hard-to-reach places, and $500 million on batteries and storage, which is incredibly important. So these are all areas which investors can get involved. And what's beautiful, the way that they're doing this, they're making what is like an equity investment, except they're not taking any equity. So they put the money in, they put in the resource, they put in the education, but they don't actually take a share, which helps de-risk it for the private side who wants to get involved. And speaking of getting involved, if there are one other way for folks to get involved, if you're interested in, is they are looking for people outside of government to review their deals. It's actually required to have outside reviewers and outside expertise. And while this is really almost a quasi-volunteer role, I think they pay you $100 a day for your time. At the end of the day, you get to go in and take a look at some of the most interesting and innovative investments that we're seeing in the space.
Oh, wow.
With that, I want to come back to a few moments here. BDO, come on. We're transitioning. We are in the transition to our next transitional energy panel. So we are going to have one moment from our host, Brian, who has got us here, and he's going to innovate and bring us back to the next panel.
Thank you so much. Well, first, I just wanted to comment that the Big 4 are working on climate disclosure process, but so is BDO. And we service the middle market generally, but that could be a $10 million company or a $1 billion company or more. And so we are building a program, and a lot of it is around advisory work, and we make a lot of our money on billable hours, and the technology that will drive that. And so from the technology that you guys have mentioned today, the Web3 aspect that you and my colleague, this is Darren, he's a friend of mine, he went to Michigan.
Go Blue.
Yeah, go Blue. So how to do this requires a little innovation, because it's all about the verification of data. And once you can establish that, then you could, people can rely on it. And climate risk mitigation can become a real thing. And then we can take it down the process of carbon minting, which is verifiable, a good market, and people can mint their own credits instead of buying them, which is what a lot of people are doing. One other comment, this is another one of my special guests, Adam Wasserman. He's the former head of New York NYSE enforcement, head of enforcement for the New York Stock Exchange, I'm sorry. And so he's got a wealth of information, and he's a lawyer. And so Adam's come here, he's a nonprofit organization called Publica, combining, financial professionals with efforts for sustainability, but he's also a lawyer and has a practice. And so the regulatory needs or just dealing with all of these new asset classes in the area, he's probably somebody you should talk to. On the PDO side, first of all, I just wanted to thank you all for being here. Unfortunately, our private lending partner, who really should be in this room, this would have been a great opportunity for him, but he couldn't make it. So we do a lot of accounting and tax work for those that weren't here this morning.
I thought you were gonna do this during the cocktail.
Well, let me just finish up here, so I just hang out.
Have a drink?
Well, I just wanted to let you know, that's like basic fundamentals of your business. We do that, and then this advisory practice that I'm talking about, climate disclosure, that's risk and compliance and all these other things that we do. But if you need help with the basics, please come see me. My colleague Marjorie is back there as well, and we can set up a call with them. So, am I supposed to name it or? Thank you.
And I want to first and foremost really thank you so much for
It's an honor.
your passion also for climate, for your children, and for everybody's children. It's to have a brilliant person like you to guide us through. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I'd like to thank all the panel and all those. Thank you. We're going to move on to the next transition. So, we've got,
Stick around, Hank, if you want. We're gonna talk
incredible,
about energy transition.
my dear friend,
What you gotta do?
you were.
All good. Because we're gonna talk about hydrogen in a much deeper way. And Eddie
Come join our 361 firm community of investors and thought leaders. We have a lot of events created by the community as we collaborate on investments and philanthropic interests. Join us.